Today, we're revealing the nations so vulnerable that even a well-equipped cruise ship could take them over. While some countries may appear secure on the surface, they got some hidden vulnerabilities that could make them seemingly easier targets for invasion. Certain choices may be predictable, while others might catch you off guard. Let's dive deep into the lore of the top 10 easiest countries to invade. Slovenia, found in Central Europe with lots of mountains and famous for skiing and lakes, lacks a military advantage despite its mountainous terrain, which is around 90%. With a smaller and less equipped military, around 7,300 personnel, it could face challenges if invaded, especially by a larger force like Italy, with a military 30 times bigger. This could lead to Slovenia being conquered in about 2 days, making the initial invasion seem simple. However, such aggression might cause international condemnation, bringing economic sanctions and diplomatic isolation for the aggressor, be it Italy or Austria. So, despite seeming easy, the practicality of invasion remains doubtful. Haiti is a country in the Caribbean next to the Dominican Republic. Some people think it could be easily taken over for a few reasons. First, the weather, especially during hurricane season, is really tough. If someone tried to invade, Haiti might struggle to defend itself. Second, they got rid of most of their military in 1995 and only started a small army with about 500 soldiers in 2017. The main defense would be this small army and the Haiti National Police with 15,000 members. If the small defense forces are defeated, the invading force could easily take control, and political corruption in the country might lead some officials to collaborate with invaders. Also, Haiti has had natural disasters like earthquakes and hurricanes, which messed up their buildings and roads. This makes it hard for Haiti to fight back or organize a quick military response. When Haiti needs help, it might be slow and not enough because the UN is not very present there. With limited resources, Haiti might face an invasion alone, given its small military and law enforcement, and could be controlled for a long time. Well, another strong contender would be Poland. Poland, with its history of frequent invasions, faces a challenging geostrategic position. It's in a tricky spot, surrounded by strong neighbors like Prussia, Russia, and Austria. These neighbors have often taken over Poland. After a 120-year fight, Poland finally got its freedom back, but then Germany and the Nazis invaded just 20 years later. The central issue lies in Poland's geography, mainly the vast Central European plains it occupies. The lack of natural barriers, except for a small southern mountain range, makes it easily accessible to potential invaders. This geographical characteristic played a big role in the success of the German Blitzkrieg during World War II. The flat terrain allowed German forces to swiftly traverse the country, encountering minimal natural obstacles, despite the Polish army's resistance. In easy words, Poland's historical vulnerability to invasions, coupled with its geographical features, particularly the absence of substantial natural barriers, makes it a contender for a country that could be relatively easier to invade. Heading further south to Costa Rica, we find a country that hasn't had a military since 1949. Instead, it relies on strong friends, especially the United States, for protection. Even though Costa Rica hasn't worried much about being invaded because of its good friendships, not having a military could make it somewhat open to an invasion. Costa Rica is surrounded by the Pacific Ocean and the Caribbean Sea, which is a bit tricky. If invaders plan carefully, they could attack from both sides, since Costa Rica doesn't have a strong navy. With only about 10,000 police officers, Costa Rica's law enforcement is pretty small. So, once invaders reach the main part of the country, there might not be much resistance. To keep control of Costa Rica, invaders could use the country's good infrastructure, connected to the United States, and helped by a big community of people from other countries. The invaders might have some time to enjoy taking over, especially if they make deals with nearby Nicaragua and Panama to stop them from interfering. But the big problem for invaders is that Costa Rica and the United States are close friends. Even though it might take a while, it's very likely that the United States would step in with a strong military to help Costa Rica. So, even if invaders managed to take over at first, they would probably end up facing a tough fight from the United States, and likely lose in the end. Next, we have Comoros, situated in the Indian Ocean, a nation facing economic challenges due to limited diversification. Its weak economy relies heavily on agriculture, remittances, and foreign assistance. The lack of economic opportunities and resources hinders the country's development. Political instability has been a persistent issue in Comoros, marked by frequent changes in leadership. This volatility has impeded governance and overall development, making it challenging to establish consistent policies for progress, which makes it vulnerable. Geographically, Comoros is physically divided across 3 main islands, posing difficulties in providing basic services and communication across the nation. This geographic limitation adds to the development challenges faced by the country, which makes it easier to get invaded. Greenland is a big island without its own army, making it an easy target for invasion. Even though it's huge and has a tough Arctic environment, defending its long coastline is hard. Greenland recently started making more decisions on its own, but Denmark still controls important things. If someone tries to invade, Denmark would struggle to send help due to Greenland's size. Invading might be easy at first, but the cold and help from NATO would likely stop them from keeping control for long. So, while starting an invasion is simple, keeping Greenland is tough. Liechtenstein is a tiny country in the mountains, surrounded by Austria and Switzerland. It hasn't had an army for a very long time, and some people think it could be easily taken over, but others say there's no good reason to do that, because Liechtenstein doesn't have big weapons or nuclear stuff. It's a peaceful country and is friends with its neighbors. Also, Liechtenstein doesn't have a lot of important things like oil or minerals. To invade Liechtenstein, someone might need about 1,000 trained soldiers with weapons and vehicles, or a much larger group of around 10,000 people with guns. However, this would only work if Austria and Switzerland don't do anything about it, and the invaders somehow manage to keep it a secret from them. Overall, even though Liechtenstein seems small and defenseless, the situation is more complicated than it looks.
Southern Sudan is also deemed to be easily invadable, although there is no actual desire for such incursions now or in future because it's mostly barren. But if any influential country were to express a desire for its invasion, the process of invading Southern Sudan could be more feasible than it appears at the moment. The country wanting to invade would just need some large tracts of land, surrounded on all sides by South Sudan. Then, a surprise attack at dawn. Bomb! It's done. The country with the lowest GDP per capita on Earth is conquered. Their borders are porous. There's no way to stop the other country, and they're already really poor, so they probably won't put up much of a fight.
Being a small island nation has good and bad sides for invasion threats. The good part is, it can be hard to get to, especially if it's in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. But if invaders do reach the island, it's in trouble. Take Tuvalu, for instance. It has 9 islands between Hawaii and Australia, very isolated. This means Tuvalu is far from quick help if someone tries to invade. Tuvalu doesn't have a military and has only a few police, so it's vulnerable to a small invading group. The small size of the islands makes it easy for armed forces to take over. Also, with the world's smallest economy, Tuvalu can't afford what it takes to fight back. Another vulnerable island nation is Aruba, technically under the protection of the Netherlands. With no military and a small police force, Aruba is defenseless, and the Netherlands is over 4,900 miles away. Once the local law enforcement is dealt with, invaders would face minimal resistance, considering the lack of a military presence. While international outcry and mobilization from organizations like NATO and the United Nations would likely follow invasions, the response time could vary depending on the nation. Isolated islands in the Pacific Ocean, like Tuvalu, may face delayed assistance compared to countries closer to major allies. In conclusion, for those seeking to invade and hold a country for an extended period, isolated Pacific islands might be an easier target.